You're a smart person and you've just finished your open water course and fallen in love with scuba diving. First off, congratulations. Second of all, being a smart person, you've probably done some maths. Dive rental gear here in South Florida will cost you about $25 per trip. So if you're planning on doing at least 60 dive trips, that's about $1,500 in dive rental gear fees. And that's enough money to buy you a pretty decent entry-level set of dive gear. To have and to hold forever and ever, it's all yours. But having just spent money on your open water course, not everybody has $1,500 lying around to buy a full set of gear. So this week we're giving you our recommendation for the first 5 pieces of scuba gear that you should spend your money on. Oh hey, what does that button do? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Divers Ready. My name's James. On this channel, we make inspirational videos to help make you a better diver. So if this is your first time here, go ahead and click on that subscribe button down there for us. Click the little bell icon and that way you'll never miss any of our awesome content. Lots of news and lots of exciting things happening with this channel. Thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see all of your smiling faces out there. We've got some really big news coming and we're like that close away from being able to tell you about it, but I just want to hold it onto it a little bit longer and keep it as my own personal secret for now, but I promise you as soon as I can say something I will. But it's going to be huge for this channel and it's going to be huge for scuba divers everywhere, so stay tuned for that. Other news this week from South Florida: we survived mini season. For those of you that don't know, every July there's a 2-day lobster mini season. I went out with some friends and we had an awesome lobster mini season and we all came away with some tails to throw on the barbecue later, so looking forward to that one. But on to the topic at hand. Let me start by saying the advice I'm about to give you, I didn't follow myself. In the early days of my diving career, I made mistakes when it came to gear purchases, and that's why I think this video is important for you as a newly qualified diver. I spent money on equipment that was not right, not suitable for the type of diving that I was doing, or that just wasn't of a good enough quality and it didn't last me and I eventually had to spend more money to replace it. So I want to help you avoid making the same mistakes I did. And I want to start by saying it's okay not to have a full set of your own dive gear right off the bat. No one really expects you to. It's much more important to invest in a few quality pieces that are going to last you a long time and suit your needs, rather than go out there and just splash money to have one of everything that you're eventually going to have to replace over time. With dive gear, as with most things in life, you pretty much get what you pay for. It's my opinion that it is absolutely better to invest in high quality equipment. Remember, this is life support equipment, over time, and spread your purchases out and get together a really nice set of gear that's going to last you a long time, rather than jump in and buy one of everything, but perhaps your budget doesn't stretch right away to buying the best of everything and instead you just end up with a bunch of mediocre dive equipment that isn't going to last you as long. And if you really do get into this sport and want to take it further, you're either going to outgrow it as a diver or you're going to outlast it. Buying lower quality scuba equipment is not a good idea for a number of reasons. Number one, this is life support equipment. Do you really want the cheapest parachute? I don't think so. Number two, as you evolve as a diver and you want to do more challenging dives, it's better to have equipment that can support you as you grow, rather than have to buy a new set of gear every step of the way. So it is absolutely okay to walk into a dive shop and not buy one of everything you need. Go in there, buy one thing that's absolutely quality, and then save up for what the next item is that you want. And the good news is, my recommendation for your first 5 pieces of dive gear feature 3 items that don't necessarily have to break the bank. So let's dive into it. My number 1 recommendation for the first piece of dive gear that a newly qualified open water diver should invest in for themselves is a quality mask. In my opinion, the mask is one of the most personal pieces of dive gear, and it's also one of the pieces of equipment that has the most influence over the comfort and enjoyment of your dives. If you've ever done a dive with a cheap rental, no brand mask that's leaking all the time, it's really hard to have fun and enjoy your dives. And that aspect of diving, the pure enjoyment of it, is so important in your first dives after finishing open water. So you really latch onto this sport and it gets in your bloodstream and you just love it. If you're constantly fighting a leaking mask, that can be really challenging. So spend some money on getting a quality mask that has a soft, supple silicone skirt and that fits your face really, really well. I made a video on how to buy masks. It's already up on the channel. I'll link it up above there. Please take your time and go and watch that by all means. My buddy Paul, who owns the Waterline Academy channel here on YouTube, I'll put a link to his channel in the description of this video below, has had his mask for 20 years. 20 years, most of that working as a professional diving instructor. That's a lot of hardware on this use, and he's using this exact same mask that he started out diving with. Why? Because he bought a quality mask the first time around. I have a lot of masks. I have a drawer full of them, and I seem to have collected them over time. I'm not exactly sure how people have given me masks, and I've bought other masks in sales and impulse buys and all this kind of stuff, which is ridiculous because I've been using the same mask for about 10 years now. And the mask I use isn't even the most expensive mask I own, but it is absolutely the one that fits me the best, and that's why I keep going back to it time and time again. And the other reason to own your mask rather than to keep renting masks is, do you really want to put a mask on your face that thousands of other people have sneezed into? Really? Nah, I didn't think so. If you're curious to know what mask I dive, as with all of the first 5 pieces of dive gear I'm recommending today, I'm going to put the link in the description of this video below. The second piece of dive gear I recommend all new divers invest in, and these are in order by the way, number 1 mask, number 2 is a good dive computer. Wrist-mounted, watch style, or console, the choice is yours. Whilst old school table diving is exhaling its dying breath, there can be no doubt at all that dive computers, as with all technology, are improving generation after generation. Now I'm going to make a video in the future about which dive computer is right for you, and when I do I will link it above, of course. But what I want to focus on now is why it's better to own than to rent a dive computer. Any dive computer is only as good as its user's comprehension of its functionality. Does that even make sense? Its user's comprehension of its functionality. Every dive computer has a different type of user interface in terms of its layout and its menus and buttons. What do the buttons do? Now, if you get your own dive computer and you read the manual, you will understand its functionality intuitively within a matter of a few dives. Now compare that to renting a dive computer in every single different place that you dive. It's not always going to be the same computer that you're renting all these different places. So you're going to have to spend time at each place learning the functionality of a new dive computer, and then you go here and rent a different one and there and so on. And you're just wasting your own time when you could be enjoying your diving. And let me say again, a dive computer that you don't understand what it's telling you is a waterproof paperweight. And remember here, I'm gearing this very much towards people who've just finished their open water certification. So you don't want to be spending time learning the functionality of a new dive computer every dive, when you should just be focusing on honing your basic dive skills after certification. Why give yourself unnecessary stress? Now, let's say we compare that to renting a BCD. BCDs come in all shapes, sizes and colors as well, but BCDs have much the same design across different brands and different models. There's going to be a dump valve here, there's going to be a dump valve here, there's going to be a dump valve if you pull the low pressure inflator hose. The button closest to you is going to be inflate, the button furthest away from you is going to be deflate. There will be an oral inflation valve. All these features are the same on all BCDs, so there's not really a big learning curve if you jump from model to model. So I'd much rather rent you a BCD and you have your own dive computer where you know its complicated functions intuitively. And the next reason you might want to own a dive computer, especially a watch style one, is because you can wear it to the office and let everyone know you're a scuba diver, and that will score you massive cool points. Oh, hey, Jim must be cool. Check out that awesome dive computer on his wrist. Item number 3 of the first 5 pieces of scuba gear that you should invest in as a newly qualified diver is, and this will come to nobody's surprise who regularly watches this channel, a DSMB. Or if you rather, a delayed surface marker buoy. As you will have seen, I did make a whole video just about DSMBs. I will link it up above. It is such an important piece of life-saving equipment, but astoundingly, earth-shatteringly surprising to my mind, I really still don't understand it, is very few dive centers around the world will actually rent you an SMB at all. And this is so shocking to me because it's such a cheap, easy piece of dive equipment to make sure that every diver has one, and yet can be so vital in saving your life if you need to indicate your position, or if you need to signal to somebody from the surface, or in a worst case scenario where you get blown off of the dive site and drift away to help search parties find you. It's an absolutely critical piece of dive gear. Now, because most people don't rent it, it definitely makes my list of the first 5 pieces of dive gear that you should invest in. But also bear this in mind. You can get a basic DSMB for like $20. If you want a really deluxe one, it's going to cost you maybe $80. And if you can't afford a piece of life-saving equipment that costs between $20 and $80, you probably shouldn't be diving at all. If I have to think about it, then I'm going to presume that most operators believe that their guests are always going to dive with their dive master, their instructor, or their guide that they're putting in the water. But what if a dive center doesn't provide a guide in the water? What if you're just diving as a buddy pair with you and your friend, or you and your partner? Or what happens if you do dive with the dive master and you get separated from them? That's when you really need a DSMB and you won't be able to rent one. So please, ladies and gentlemen, they are cheap, they are small, they are easy to travel with. For me, for my own peace of mind, please, divers, never, 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 ever get in the ocean without a DSMB. Okay, rant over. The 4th piece of dive gear that I recommend any newly qualified diver invests their hard-earned money in is appropriate thermal protection. I know that could be like 5 or 6 different items, but I'm lumping them all together, alright? Hey, it's my channel, I can do it if I want to. So like a mask, thermal protection is a very personal item. Would you rent underwear? Would you rent a toothbrush? Do you know what scuba divers do in rental wetsuits? Okay then, buy your own dive suit. Plus, only you know how cold you get. I've ran dive centers all across the tropics, and typically our rental suit was a 2 or 3 millimeter shorty, short arms, short legs. And that's sufficient for most people diving in those areas of the world all year round. But even so, some divers would still get cold in them. I've seen divers get back on a dive boat with 35 degrees C air temperature and 22 degrees C water temperature, and they're shivering and they've got blue lips and goosebumps, and it's a personal thing. There's no judgment here, it's what's happening. So if you're one of those people, you're going to want to make sure you bring your own suit along so you stay suitably warm. Suitably warm. And also, as with masks, different brands of suit fit differently. Buying your own suit means you're going to get your best fit. Best fit means the suit is going to do a better job for you of keeping you warm. And this is particularly true of dry suits, of course, height and weight being the main driving factors there, but even wetsuits fit differently. I'll tell you this, I would dearly love a Fourth Element wetsuit. I love their technology, I love the way they look, and as a bonus, the company was founded in my hometown in the UK. So score 1 for the home team. But if you want a suit that fits a 6'3" man, you need to be about 175 pounds. And that just isn't me. So I tend to gravitate towards bare wetsuits because, number one, they're rugged, like the Fourth Element suits, and I'm always rummaging around in an engine room somewhere, so I want a hard-wearing suit that's going to last me a long time, even though I'm going to put it through hell. And they also fit rugby players. Number 5 on my list of the first 5 pieces of dive gear that you as a newly qualified diver should invest in is the scuba regulator. The nice thing with owning your own regulator, you always know the last time it was serviced. The end. Of course, dive centers service their rental regulators. I'm messing with you. But here's the real reason that I would recommend owning a regulator over renting one. The regulators that dive operators rent out are manufactured specifically for the rental market. They tend to be the cheapest piston regulators, the bottom end of the spectrum of all the regs that any particular scuba brand make, and are designed to work great at shallower depths. They have a very simple design that can take an absolute beating, morning trip, afternoon trip, day in, day out, all year round. Now, the regulators I'm talking about here, to name a few, the Scuba Pro Mark II, the Aqualung Calypso, the Cressi AC2, these are the workhorse regs that you see as the rental fleet for dive operations all around the world. They do the job they were designed to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, to tell you a story within a story, when I was in Grand Cayman, I rented a little Kia hatchback car, and it got me around the island while I was shooting videos and doing dives with my friends, and it was fuel efficient because gas is very expensive on Grand Cayman, so I was thankful for that, and it did the job. Now that I'm back home in South Florida, would I buy that little Kia hatchback to own? No, I probably wouldn't. I drive a Nissan Frontier pickup truck. It's capable of carrying my heavy tanks, it's got Bluetooth, and it's spacious, and the air conditioning's super strong, and all the things that I want. I spend a lot of time in it, so I want to be comfortable. So going back to regulators then, you can by all means buy a Scuba Pro Mark II, an Aqualung Calypso, or a Cressi AC2, or any of the other rental bottom end regulators that are out there, and it will work fine for you and it will do a basic job. But if you want a regulator that you could grow into, that when you eventually keep doing deeper dives is going to breathe better for you at depth, that has more comfort features like a swiveling second stage or Venturi lever adjust, and just a regulator that has a better work of breathing rating, then you're going to want to spend a little bit more money on your regulator and go to the middle or top end of the range. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for us and click the little bell icon, and that way you'll never miss any of our awesome content. I thank you so much for watching. If you could do me one more favor and let me know in the comments below, what was the first piece of scuba gear that you invested in? Was it a good choice? If you haven't bought any dive gear yet, then I'm really happy that you watched this video now, and hopefully that helped you. So in that case, let me know what the pieces of gear you're thinking of buying are below. That'd be awesome. And as I said before, all of my top 5 pieces that I still dive today, I've listed in the description of this video below, so you can go and check out my choices. Also, if you have any scuba diving questions that you would like answered by a professional technical diving instructor, please feel free to write those in the comments below and I will be answering them in an upcoming video. Or if you don't want to send them to me publicly, by all means, the link for Facebook is down there and you can reach out to me with a PM. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. We just passed the 300 subscriber mark. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. My name's James. This was your Divers Ready Mouthpiece Monday for this week. Dive safe, dive often.